For all of you joining us live and the number of you joining us on the replay, thank you for sharing your time with us for our My Wealth video series. My name is Jeff Hunter and I'm Portfolio Manager with the Townshend, Somani and Hunter Group at Canaccord Genuity. Also on the line are our lead investment advisors, Raheem Somani and Dave Townshend. For more information about our team, our process, and our exclusive My Wealth Global portfolios, please check out mywealthmanager.ca. Today's call is with Bitcoin Well, Canada's first publicly traded Bitcoin ATM company. For today's call, participants have been muted, so if you do have questions, please type them in the Q&A below, and we'll do our best to answer them in the time allotted, and otherwise we'll get an answer to you shortly thereafter our meeting. With that, I'll pass it over to Dave Townshend, a VP at Canaccord and Senior Investment Advisor.
Hello all, I hope you're well. Much anticipated issue that we've been participating in, Bitcoin Well, a phenomenal Edmonton-based company that we think has tremendous growth opportunities, as is shown in the recent financial statements. So I'll waste no time. I'll introduce management that has joined us on the line. First of all, thank you for taking the time, Adam and Dave. Adam O'Brien is the founder of Bitcoin Well. Dave Bradley is the Chief Revenue Officer. So first and foremost, thank you both for all your hard work to get this company listed, to get it built, to creating the shareholder value. You and your employees have done a phenomenal job, right? And moved forward to become the first and only, as far as we know, Bitcoin vending machine company in the world. So Adam, I'll just ask you to sort of give us a few opening remarks about where you are, how you've got here, and then we'll ask Dave to sort of comment on the financials. Adam?
Yeah, sure. Thanks a bunch, Dave. Much appreciated. And thanks everyone for watching. We are, of course, very proud and very happy to be the world's first publicly traded Bitcoin ATM company. Something that took, as all of you involved know, quite some time to get here. Ultimately, when I started the company 8 years ago, the vision and the mission was to make Bitcoin accessible. And that's exactly what these Bitcoin ATMs do. And so we're obviously very, very excited to with the growth that we've seen, both in ATM deployments and in revenues, which I believe Dave will be talking about shortly, as well as some expansions and kind of building out this accretive acquisition strategy that we've been executing for the last 18 months.
Dave, if you've got them there, the financials, Jeff, put them up on the screen. So these numbers are quite outstanding that, you know, you have a company here, and then as of today here at 30 cents, market capitalization is less than $50 million. Roughly what's cash on hand, Dave?
That's a good question.
We've got $9.6 million in working capital and cash on hand right now.
Thank you, Adam. So Dave, how did you achieve such phenomenal growth here?
Yeah, I mean,
you look at this company and go, it's gone from idle to overdrive since we've been involved in getting you public in the last 3 quarters, especially this last quarter, just a blowout quarter. I just wanted you to speak to that and revenue per machine and the metrics that you look at as you grow this business.
Yeah, absolutely. So our top line number there, which is my big focus, was obviously the big success from this quarter, hitting $41.7 million, which was around 400% higher than the same quarter in 2020. So big success there. Most of that growth came from our over-the-counter business. So that's our white glove service where we help new clients get into Bitcoin in our offices in Calgary and Edmonton. What we see is that, and this is true for both the over-the-counter business and the ATMs, anytime we see volatility in the price going up or down, that tends to drive a lot of business our way. And so our business itself is not really dependent on the success of the Bitcoin price, but we benefit from movement in any direction. So that's really strong in that sense. If you look on our financials, you'll see a couple different lines there. We've got our ATM volume, we've got our over-the-counter volume, and then we have another line called exchange sales that I wanted to touch on a little bit. And so how that works is anytime somebody sells us Bitcoin, that's where an exchange sale comes in. So we buy the Bitcoin from a customer, it's not really possible to generate revenue by buying something. So we then turn around and sell that for a little bit more than we paid for it. We sell it on an online exchange, and then that's where that line comes in. So both of those, buying and selling Bitcoin over the counter in our offices has been really strong. The biggest success that we had was we had one large transaction from a single customer that totaled around 22 million in the Q2. So very big success there. And that's going to continue to be our focal point, is those offices. We recently opened one in Calgary, so we're looking for more growth in that area going forward for sure.
Dave, are those, just to interject there, is most of that revenue in Bitcoin, or you're trading other coins as well?
At the ATMs, we're doing only Bitcoin. Over the counter, we're doing Bitcoin and Ethereum, but the vast majority of the revenue is through Bitcoin for sure.
And do you see the growth in Ethereum, or will you branch out into Ethereum? That's a question I get a lot, because a lot of people hear about Ethereum and don't really understand the difference. The question is it tradable? And, do you plan to expand into that coin?
I can touch on that if you want, Dave.
Certainly, Adam.
We certainly have a mission and a vision to selling sound money. Our goal is to enable a financially sovereign society. And currently, with the monetary principles of Bitcoin, Bitcoin is the only kind of avenue to be able to do that. We've kind of found our niche, and we've found success in our niche in the same way. I don't think anyone in the audience is going to McDonald's looking for a really healthy meal, and no one's going to their, favorite vegan place looking for a big, juicy steak. And so we've certainly found our niche and figured out how to dominate that niche. And right now we're in the exploration phase to see, what other coins kind of come to market. And so I'd say this OTC branch testing of Ethereum is kind of where we're at right now with adding additional coins.
Very interesting. So Dave, in the white glove service, right, with such success in Edmonton and Calgary, I had noticed, and I was commenting this to Adam, I said, I see a Bitcoin vending machine show up in New Brunswick. So where do I expect to see white glove service show
up? Like I mentioned, so we just opened our Calgary office. It's been there for about 2 months. So if anyone listening on this call is looking to get into Bitcoin, they're in Calgary, that's a great place to start. Looking at how the Calgary office succeeds and where that goes is going to determine where our next moves are. But we think there's a market for this white glove service really in any center in Canada, certainly. So some of the next ones that we're going to be looking at would be like Winnipeg, Vancouver, Montreal, Ottawa, and then eventually Toronto. So we could offer this service really anywhere in Canada, and it's a pretty low footprint. It doesn't cost us a lot to set up an office and staff it. So we can offer that really just about anywhere.
Mm-hmm. So before we move on, do either of you have any other comments on the financials? And again, congratulations, lights out, unbelievable.
I don't think so. I think just kind of building off of what Dave said and kind of highlighting the growth at the over-the-counter kind of services. We've seen success in that, and we've been doing some research and testing the market to see kind of where they're going. And we were quite surprised to note and to highlight that over 50 or just about 50% of people intending to get into cryptocurrency really do hinge it on being able to walk in, shake someone's hand, get a real understanding of what that is. And then likewise, we're able to take the opportunity to integrate them into our ecosystem, show them how to use the Bitcoin ATM for future purposes and for future purchases, show them how to use our website to then pay their bills or sell the Bitcoin at a later date. So it really is the first real organic step to onboarding them into the Bitcoin Well ecosystem.
Yeah, people want the human touch. I don't care about, what people say. People want the human touch, and we've seen that now through the pandemic, now that people are coming back through. So again, excellent quarter. All right, so let's move on to, this company. As we go forward, we expect this company to continue and make acquisitions, of which you've made 3 in just recent times. So first, I know the English acquisition. I just want to touch on that because I have a client question to say, well, where's, when are they ready to go in England? Because looking at the population of the UK outside of the EU, this is very fertile ground to start your expansion. So let's just talk a minute there, Adam, about, how, when, and where you plan to go with your English sub.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting into England was a great feat. We were quite excited to be able to do that because we too saw the opportunity. We saw, what we believe to be an unsaturated and untapped market, and saw the potential to walk in there. The deal and the structure of the deal was such that we had a massive deferred payment until the completion and the successful completion of FCA or regulatory approvals. And so right now we are operating the business over there. We are kind of biding our time and going through the regulatory approval process in the FCA. And then once successful is when we will absolutely put our foot on the gas, enter into ludicrous mode, if you were in a Tesla, and drive forward with organic expansion. And also, we are hopeful that we'll be one of few to actually achieve the regulatory approval, which of course would give us quite an advantage to making accretive acquisitions in the UK and following on the strategy that we've kind of been executing here in Canada.
So do you think your timeline there, you're with the regulators now?
Of course.
Yeah. So the applications have been made and we're waiting. That reminds me of something very important that apparently, I can't remember who shared it with me, but you've made your application to get the stock on the, you made your application, the first part of the application to get the stock to trade in America. And I think that's a very important milestone. So we'll be watching, very closely there that, once the stock trades over the counter, okay, the audience in America is not just 10 times because of the population, right? That's the your window into the world and really to expose your company. Absolutely. So we're very excited there. So secondly, you've made an acquisition in Northern Ontario. Right. So let's just, high level go through that and where's the expandable there and why?
Sure. The acquisition in Northern Ontario was very advantageous to us from a learning perspective because they were in otherwise untapped markets. And so they took the approach early in their deployments that they were going to focus on small towns with kind of low saturation. So acquiring that network was good for us to learn how the small towns kind of have been functioning over the last 2 to 3 years that they've been expanding in there. And they also had the sell feature at the ATMs enabled, something that we found very little success in our big city markets here. And we have seen that they're seeing tremendous success over there. And so that's caused us another kind of learning opportunity to expand our existing network and make that acquisition a little bit more accretive. So yeah, it's been very, very good. At a high level, that was 10 machines in 10 locations, generating revenue on day one. Those are the types of acquisitions that we're excited about. This is the 5th Bitcoin ATM network that we've been able to acquire and integrate into our existing network. Each of them getting more scalable as our team redefines and further cements the process required to operate those machines.
Excellent. Sounds very promising. And the software company you've just acquired, what does that look like on the go forward basis? What does that do? How does that position you?
Great question.
And how is it accretive to the shareholders? How do we move? What do you do with that software? What's the end game there?
Sure. I'll start by prefacing we are in the process of acquiring. The regulators and the exchange are still reviewing the transaction, of course. But yeah, this is a monumental, or we believe this to be a monumental acquisition for the business because it diversifies our revenue streams. We're able now to incorporate that SaaS or software as a service revenue potential in markets that we deem fit not fit for our operation. So for example, there are a plethora of markets that are not quite ripe for our entry right now, where regulations might be strict or operational barriers might exist. And we're able to still deploy software in those markets and have someone else operate where we deem it too risky. Of course, we're hopeful to capitalize on competitor growth in a similar way that Amazon did with AWS. And so this gives us the software necessary to kind of be able to capitalize on that. And then, of course, as well, taking the short-term sting out of market saturation, assuming that Ghost ATM is going to be deployed onto some of the saturation competitor machines. And so what this does ultimately, Dave, is it enables long-term scalable growth without the required CapEx that currently exists and that currently is required to scale our existing business.
So this is a software, Adam, that could go on anyone's machine?
Well, careful with the word anyone. There are, of course, 3.2 million legacy ATMs in the world. And this software currently in its existing state can integrate with just about a dozen hardware sets to be able to be deployed into the market. And so we're able to roll this software onto existing Bitcoin ATM machines, as well as a small number of legacy ATM machines or traditional ATM machines as well. So yes.
Very interesting. So next, what is the new geographies? What's the low-hanging fruit for Bitcoin Well? You know, you're expanding into New Brunswick, you're going to expand into Ontario. You got a long way to go before you get saturation in Canada, right? Compared to the amount of machines in America, right? If that's a fair comparison. But if you were to look forward and say, okay, we're going to grow this and we're going to get to, you know, let's start with, where do you think you exit the year at? Like ballpark. Right? Do you roll out, how many machines in Canada do you think will be deployed by the end of the year if you were to make a projection? And we understand it's a projection. Yeah. And then the other question is, what are the other geographies, given what's going on in the world?
Great question. So right now our focus is Canadian. And then, like I said, the second we get regulatory approval, we plan on hitting ludicrous mode over in the UK. Right now we are, and my projections for the end of the year, unfortunately, largely vary depending on the partnerships that we come across. So, an example, striking a partnership with a national convenience store, for example, would merit a massive growth overnight of machines versus, a regional retailer. And we have our sales team focused on both partnerships. And so some take longer than others. And we've been working on these types of partnerships for some time. And so I'm not going to sit here and give hard numbers. In fact, I was warned not to, but definitely excited to have these partnerships land and have these partnerships grow and allow our teams to grow with those partnerships.
And at that point, I saw the August update. It's an excellent for all of you shareholders to look at the Bitcoin Well site as they're rolling stuff out and making continuous news. And I follow them on Twitter. It's always very good content for those of us that are trying to get further up the learning curve on Bitcoin. So the saturation point. How many machines would Canada support compared to America? Like where? What's the size of the prize? What do you think the size of the prize is? Like, 2 years from now, if you're able to, and every time I read about the States, there's 35,000, there's 37,000, there's 40, it just continues to grow in leaps and bounds. So, your studies, and you've looked at the market here, well, way more than we have. What's saturation?
Yeah, so I think so. Right now, there are right around the 2,000 Bitcoin ATMs in Canada, a little bit less than that. We truly see ATMs as an important part of our ecosystem, and so having these machines, like right now, there is literally a traditional ATM on every corner, and I don't see Bitcoin ATMs as being dissimilar. when, and I'm saying when, Bitcoin becomes even more important in daily life. And as it gets more usable in daily life, the need to access that Bitcoin is going to become more and more integral to its operation. And so having more and more kiosks to be able to deploy is certainly in our future. And so your point about saturation, we've seen significantly more machines deployed in Canada over the last little while. We've also seen significantly more interest in people buying Bitcoin. And so when I talk about the ecosystem, this is what I'm referring to. I'm referring to a host of machines that do what we need them to do. I'm referring to a host of over-the-counter OTC branches that can kind of onboard the customer into that. And then, of course, I'm talking about, and now especially, the technology, which is that third piece. Once the customer has used the ATM and we get them onboarded into the ecosystem, we'll be able to deploy the technology behind it to get them buying in a more regular basis and using the machine as but a piece of the Bitcoin Well ecosystem. So saturation is certainly on our mind, and I think we're a long ways out from seeing true saturation in Canada.
And have to agree. Now, right, we have a number of questions. Oh yeah, one last question I wanted to know. Based on some of the acquisition numbers I've read and looking at some of the competitors in Canada, you know, you guys are miles, leaps and bounds ahead of revenue per machine. And that's got to do with location. So as I said to you before, and you know, what is the secret sauce? I'm not asking you to give away the secret sauce, but what are you doing so much better that you're getting so much more revenue per machine than your competitors? That's the competitive advantage to now consolidate the business.
Yeah, it is. The longevity of our brand and our operational process is built into that. You know, I'm not going to sit here and give the ingredients for the whole world to see, obviously, but I will speak to our operational and marketing branding processes are quite significant. We were going over the last few acquisitions, and what the numbers tell us is that we're able to acquire a network of machine, put our time, efforts, and expertise into that machine, and have it be a very accretive acquisition. We had one acquisition, made one of our first acquisitions paid us back in just over 10 months. And so when we're able to, because we have these strong capabilities, because we have the structure of the team that is operating these machines, we're able to create that longevity, and we're able to forecast down the road. The capital we deploy today, we don't expect to see it, crank cash overnight. We're truly setting the stage. We're a patient business that's capable of seeing the future. You think about the first ATM that I deployed in Alberta in 2014, it did nowhere near the revenues that we are seeing today, even though it was the only one. But over time, the brand gained more steam and the operations got easier, and we were able to have a network of machines that kind of lead that through. So I would say that the secret sauce is truly who we are, and it's ingrained in our culture of knowing what to look for, seeking it out, and then deploying, and understanding that the longevity of the business is involved in deploying capital, working on that capital, nurturing the machine, and then having it very successful down the road.
Interesting. So those are the ends of my points. I've got a couple of questions here from shareholders. And the biggest thing that I had to get my head around was this. Explain the benefits of just being non-custodial.
Non-custodial ownership or non-custodial purchasing and then self-custodied ownership of Bitcoin is absolutely integral to a financially sovereign society. Being non-custodial gives first of all, the immediate gratification of owning and controlling the Bitcoin the second you pay for it. But then second of all, it is the ultimate secure way to hold your Bitcoin. We have seen time and time again, custodians mishandle customer funds. And as a result, regulators are targeting custodians. So from a strict business perspective, there is less red tape and easier regulations to work with by being non-custodial. But from a customer perspective, there's an inherent philosophical advantage to self-custody Bitcoin. When you buy Bitcoin from a Bitcoin ATM, we believe it to be the fastest and safest way to do so. You walk up to a machine, you scan your Bitcoin address, insert cash, and voila, you have Bitcoin in 8 seconds or less. And as a result of that, there is no faster way to buy Bitcoin. If you got to go to the bank and send a wire transfer, we all know how that works and how long that takes. And then likewise, you have to go through the rigmarole of requesting permission to then access the Bitcoin that you've just purchased. We are a direct-to-consumer model, which appeases both the regulators and the consumer. And we believe it to be very, very advantageous for society as a whole.
Very interesting. So the other one is, where's the opportunity in the balance of the world? Like, you've got lots to grow at here, but just, in reading the headlines, you look at El Salvador, and I go, I look at Afghanistan, the idea that, you need portable, secure money, right? Especially, is it, it just seems to me that the growth opportunities in the third world, right, are unlimited, really.
Yeah, it's no
what
secret.
Governments are doing.
Yeah, it's no secret that the world needs Bitcoin now more than ever. Certainly in the third world, access to, and what I'm talking about, non-custodial, self-custody Bitcoin, money that you own and control, and that you have a certain amount of security that you're able to own and control it. When you own Bitcoin, you're not owning someone else's liability. You have complete ownership over the value that you have in that Bitcoin. And that is absolutely something that exists right now around the world. And so as we continue to explore other markets, we're kind of factoring in who needs Bitcoin the most and who needs access to Bitcoin the most, coupled with, how can we responsibly enter that market from a business perspective. Those are kind of the factors that we are, that we're kind of varying there.
Very interesting. Raheem, you had a question you wanted to ask?
Nothing specific, that it's already been answered, but we have one question we were able to get to from the audience, and that is on the bill payment cap, currently at 9,000. I think we've discussed this before, but if you want to give the audience just in terms of where regulations are and why caps are set, especially for bill payment, and just expanding on that bill payment platform and the potential of that as more and more transactions continue to emanate online and into different types of business models, reintegrating Stripe, Square, PayPal. I think what you have is an integrating network here that facilitate cross transactions as well.
Definitely. Bill payments and the bill payments platform at bitcoinwell.com is absolutely part of that ecosystem I keep referencing. This is kind of the initial stage of building out the usability of Bitcoin. And so the workflow is quite simple. You go, you use your Visa, you use your MasterCard, you incur a liability with Epcor or a hydro company. You go onto bitcoinwell.com, you find your payee that you want to pay, you enter your account number, and we generate an invoice for you to send Bitcoin to. And you can effectively live on Bitcoin that way. You think 5-6 years ago, and if you look at some legacy YouTube videos, you can see some people, they made real content about how difficult it was to live on Bitcoin. And now you can live on Bitcoin by paying for everything with your Visa and paying your Visa off that way. Speaking specifically to the caps, as part of our compliance policy and as part of our AML standards that we hold, we of course are a registered money service business with FinTrack, and so we have a certain compliance policy that we have in place, and that's in constant, I shouldn't say constant shuffle, but we're always revisiting that policy and seeing how we can make it more effective for the consumer while still maintaining our high level of diligence towards compliance. So that cap right now is set based on our compliance policy, and but definitely, like I said, we revisit that and we make sure that we are as advantageous for the customer while still maintaining the strict level of compliance that we do.
Great answer. It sort of sets up the other comment, like, what an unbelievable barrier to entry too, to be, to get to this level of compliance. And what I've seen in the listing process with the stock exchange, this isn't an easy process, and that sets up quite a moat, right? For anybody else to get the currency to consolidate this business, I think you've got a great leg up. So unless there's anything further or the questions we didn't get to, in the interest of time here, we're going to cut this short. But all of you that have asked questions or have further questions after, or want to look at the replay, this will be available. I strongly encourage you to follow Adam on LinkedIn and Bitcoin Well, and look at the website. They're very forward facing, and I think we're just in the early innings. We're not even at the bottom of the first to look at where this company can go, and most importantly, to get this company visible in the United States, which is the focus of us here at Canaccord, to help the company get to the money and get to the valuation, to get the money to be the leader in this business. So without any further ado, you want to have a closing comment, Adam? Dave?
Yeah, definitely. So again, I want to say thank you to all our current and future shareholders. I want to highlight just how aligned I am with shareholders as the company's single largest equity holder. I do want to express gratitude, and this has been an incredible journey over the last 8 years. And I've spent, the better part of my working life building this business, and I am incredibly excited to be incredibly engaged and see what this company can really do. The last 8 years, we've been able to run through, and we've been able to grow and do what we've done without the institutional capital, without the buy-in from, kind of corporate America, so to speak. And now that we have that, now that we've gone through, the due diligence periods with some of those regulators, I'm incredibly excited to see what the next 8 years look like. So thank you all very much. Looking forward to future discussions.
Again, thanks for your time, Adam and Dave. Congrats on, it's just such a blowout quarter compared to there are no comps. That's the other thing. But if you look at the rest of the valuations in this sector, right, I can't believe that the market, is not going to get, your value is not going to be reflected in the market. Thank you for all your hard work, and everybody that's attended. I hope you're safe. I hope you're well. And if we don't talk to you, enjoy the holidays, enjoy the weekend. Again, thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thanks.